Welcome back to Blackacre Ranch, guys. My name's Jeff. We're back here to fix the problem of having two cows with our yearlings that we created last time. So we're gonna get them back into this pasture, and hopefully later in this episode, stick with us because I want to talk about ways to move buffalo, and there's just different methods, and sometimes we kind of just get too honed in on one type thinking that it's suitable for everything. So let's get these guys moved. Alright, so step one is blocking off this alleyway. Now, this is our plan, okay? We've tried twice, never blocking fully everything off with panels and portable panels, and we have some. The herd is currently not in pasture 7 on the top side. They're on the downside down below. And these animals generally are still separated for the most part. They're not mingling. So the older cows, when they're not all here, are actually fully separated. There's a hope I have that the old cows know they want to go in here because they continually sit up here, just like the calves do. If we open this, not having to worry about the herd, with these guys, just walk right in if we kind of gave ourselves an umbrella. That's the hope. If not, we're back to what we did a couple days ago.
You sure you don't want to open it in to us? Just to give us another line out here?
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Clark or Lorna? Lorna, somebody needs to hold this gate.
The buffalo are coming.
Shh. No, stop.
Do you think some jobs?
See how they're separating already? Yeah.
All right, you guys make a line. Yeah, Oliver. Yeah, kind of get in line by Clark. Then they'll be able to go that way. Wanna go kisses? Go on. Go on. You two, Rose. You two are allowed to go. Come on, girls.
Just walk.
Good girls. You can do it. Go on home. Good job. I know there's grass out here a little bit, huh? Go on in. Aw, you guys happy now? I know it's kind of barren still, but we'll give you cubes and hay.
Go find the rest of your herd. They're over on the ridge.
They probably missed you. Hey guys, you lonely now? Wondering why you can't walk over there too?
So that was actually pretty anticlimactic. This is what we wanted to have happen on Thursday. Okay.
Like every time.
Proof in the pudding, I guess, is you can walk them from spot to spot if they know where they want to go, and they wanted to go back to the herd. So there's not enough grass here to entice them, but they just walked, and that was actually nice.
Okay, shh.
All right, we have a bunch of cubes out. We put them in there. The missionaries helped out with that. They were back there. And so just kind of their annual cubing. This is a supplementation that we bring them. There are various different types of supplements you can give. Grain feeding, mixtures of grain, ratios of that. There's cubes, there's all sorts of stuff. Hey, Bartok. Anyway, we do supplement our animals some. And most people do supplements to some extent. It's how much and what type. I've done cost comparisons between just cubes and doing like a 4-way blend or get a gravity wagon and just have a bunch of grain and everything else like that. And honestly, the mills that we have around here are no cheaper than just getting bags of cubes. So we've just been using bags since we've been doing it for a while, and I want to finish this year out. Year feeding cycles, typically I would start it probably around April after winter is finished. And so I'm kind of in the middle of a feeding cycle where we analyze and assess how much feed we give them, what's their kind of, how they look, their health, their conformation, that kind of stuff. And I don't want to switch that mid-cycle. So if you're wondering why I don't do stuff like everybody else does and feed grain, there's a couple reasons. One, I'm already in doing with cubes, and two, it's no cheaper. And this is fairly easy to deal with. Same time we got hay going on. Charlotte's feeding out hay. We're putting 3 new bales out. 1 ring, 2 ring, 3 ring. Grass is actually starting to grow though. So this is pasture 6. So for some of you new viewers out there, we do have 2 pastures that we rotate the animals through. This is pasture 7, and it is about 15, 16 acres. And this is pasture 6, about equivalent size. One of them might be 18 acres, I can't remember. This is the one that we have not had the animals on for 2 months, and this is all the growth there is. Because of the drought, we've been having them on this pasture, and that's why it looks so bad. But in the meantime, we've been using it as an opportunity to have the manure come out there, to fertilize, to really mix in, and also have all of the actual grasses from the hay that they spill out to actually kind of seed themselves in the ground to help give us some extra foliage that might grow. And you can see it starting to sprout up and things in different areas. So in the last video about the buffalo, when they got out, I just did want to make it clear that this pen right here is just a feed pen. This is a spot where we have the troughs here. And the purpose of this is that it can be a bridge between pasture 6 out there and pasture 7 over here. So that way I can have one feed spot between the two. I have a gate on the far side of this feed spot, and I have a gate that I had opened up here, this red gate that is now behind me. And that opens it so I can allow the buffalo access to either or. It's not a feed lot in the sense that they stay here, right? This is just when I bring them cubes and then they leave. The reason it looks so bad is I used to have the hay in here with all of the troughs, and they would spend a lot of time here because the hay was here. And all that buildup and everything, I thought, why don't I just spread that out more into a pasture? So I know in the video it kind of looked like, hey, maybe it gave the wrong impression that they're here all the time. They're never locked in here, really. They always have all of the other acreage to go to. So, you know, I hope that clarifies it, but we don't just lock them in a small area and leave them there the whole time. Cooper filled his dreams of feeding a buffalo. How do you feel now, Cooper?
So great.
You want to go to Disneyland.
I'm in Disneyland.
It's like you won the Super Bowl. Cooper, you big stud.
I know, one of them's falling.
Yeah. Oh crap.
You want some help?
Yeah. I say you have a following, but that's not what you were saying. It's like the Pied Piper. Go on, guys. You can follow him.
Up here while you do the bottom.
Go on. Now they're all going to Cooper.
As I mentioned before, we feed them these supplements, right? And these are the cubes. We do want to feed them a certain amount of protein to make sure that they have a high enough amount. These guys should be right now getting about 10 to 12% protein. So every so often we need to kind of estimate their weight, review it, and see if we need to up the ante a little bit. Because our hay already has 10% protein, a little over 10%, so we didn't need too much supplement. Which is the benefit of getting good quality hay as opposed to sucky hay, right? There is a difference. We got them all moved. We shifted them back a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet to give them more space because they've been blowing through that gate or the fence line right there. You'll see that there's a missing T-post. That's because they just obliterated it once. We're just giving them more space. The other thing that we did is, unless you were counting troughs, we bring in this other one. So that gives us 7 troughs. So one concern when you feed them supplements is, do they have enough access? So is there enough bunk space to feed everybody? Now cows will just line up and just do that. Buffalo don't. Like I said, they go crazy, they shift a lot, and so some of the trick is making sure that they all get it. So we added another bunk in here. We took it out of 6 because that used to be our mineral trough, and since we have this little wee beastie, we don't need it out there, so we're going to bring it in here and kind of use that to help just provide more space to make sure that the animals get it. An advantage of those grain wagons or whatever, those gravity feed bin things, is it sits out there and they can just grab it whenever they need it. This is only happens, you know, whenever there's cube, and then it's gone, and then that's it. So it's more important to make sure there's enough space here with this. Anyway, that's why we did that. The balance of power has been restored to the yearlings. It's been nice to get those cows out, and I think they'll calm down and kind of be like actually what's normal now. So hey, I wanted to kind of just address a couple of things, do a little bit of housekeeping before I move on to this next section. I do want to talk to you about how to move buffalo, especially when they're not contained in pens. We've seemed to have had some experience with that, but first I just kind of want to mention, I know a number of you guys have commented, and you guys leave comments. Some of the comments are very much like, you need to go watch cross timbers, bison, right? You need to be doing this. And a number of you pound this topic about having to go watch this other channel. I can guarantee you we all know who each other are, okay? So I appreciate it that you're telling me to go watch them. I know his videos. I see them pop up. We all know each other. I know Broken Arrow. I know Arrowhead Bison, Soldier Creek Bison, Cross Timbers Bison. There's other people who even have them, okay? We all know each other. The bison community is not super huge like cattle, okay? And none of us do this in a vacuum. We're all starting this out, from Cross Timbers to me to all of us. We're starting this out, we're learning as we go. And I can guarantee you, we all have our little network of peeps that we work with. So, you know, just recognize that. But why I say that along those same lines is that there isn't one way to do stuff, okay? I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer. I love having singular answers, but there isn't always just one way to do stuff. And sometimes when we look at, oh, this channel or this, we kind of start thinking, hey, that is the one way to do it. Just like there is not the channel, there isn't always the way, right? I'm a University of Michigan fan. I love Michigan Wolverines, right? Go blue. But, you know, Ohio State, it's the Ohio State. So there is no the Buffalo channel, okay? It is many of us all together working to disseminate information and exposure about buffalo and all of our experiences with it. So, that being said, please be aware, I do know who all of these people are, and they do know who I am. We don't have to just push it and pound it so much, okay? Chill. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. As I was alluding to just moments ago, there isn't one necessarily mandatory right way to do things, and that's very frustrating, especially for new buffalo people or new people in anything. It's the answer of, as an engineer, I want to say, look, there's a right answer. It is 0.25. You know, it's not 0.26, it's 0.25. But as a lawyer, you're like, it depends, right? So sadly, I think the answer that a lawyer gives is usually what it is, and that's what I get a lot of times. It depends. There's circumstances. There's differences between ranches. So if you see something on Broken Arrow or Arrowhead or Cross Timbers or Soldier Creek or something like this, just know there's different ways to fence, there's different ways to feed, there's different ways to capture escaped bison, there's different methods, there's different, I mean, across the board, ranches and land are different, climate's different, supply's different, experiences of the rancher come into that. Anyway, there is no one right way to do something. There may be more preferred ways, but it all just depends on where you're at. So I think what we just did here with the escaped bison kind of will help us see that a little bit. As any livestock owner is probably going to realize, you're going to have animals that escape, okay? They just do. I've accidentally let some out. I've purposely let them out and then they completely escaped, right? So it's gonna happen, and you gotta find ways in which you can corral them back, bring them back, because the worst case scenario is they've escaped, maybe they're getting close to a highway or there's a dangerous situation, and you just gotta shoot them. I know people who have done that. They bought like a small herd of buffalo. They completely went AWOL, gone. They finally found them, but could not get them back contained in anything, and they ended up just shot them all in the street. So that's never something we want to do. So here are some methods, all right? Different ways. You saw what we did in the last episode, okay? Right behind me is the main herd. We've had many different experiences, by the way, with having escaped buffalo. Our herd got out once, and this is going to kind of illustrate. First way, when you have escaped bison, when you have bison in general, you need to find a way to train them with a signal or something to cubes, okay? It's baiting them. You have to find something, okay? So most of the time, people cube train their buffalo. It's a supplement, you give it to them, they recognize it. Ours are trained with the sound of a bag. People use buckets. People use whistles, horns, screaming, whatever. I don't care what the signal is, you just have to have some signal that they recognize, that they associate with the bait, if you want to call it, the cubes. If you ever have a buffalo herd, you've got to cube train them or somehow train them to something that they want. That way when they escape, you can use that as the lure and they will follow you back to where you want to go. That's the idea. And we've had that happen. These guys all got out, all of them, and they were a half mile just on the other side of the property, and we baited them like that, and we brought them all the way back in. We have a video on it. And in fact, I guess what I'll do is I'm going to create a playlist of different escapes or other things of how we handle them, and they're going to illustrate all these different ones that I'm talking about now. One of them was we just led them all the way back in, and cubes was it, and they knew the sound, and it was really calm and easy to bring them back in. If you don't cube train them or have something, you got to go to the next one, and that's driving them. All right, second method is to drive them. Okay, you'll see this oftentimes. You know, people have four-wheelers, side-by-sides, trucks, whatever, and you're kind of pushing the animals and you're trying to get them to go a general direction, okay? This works good in wide open spaces, okay? People sometimes have 1,000-acre pastures or, you know, just huge, massive things, and they've got to drive the buffalo in, maybe for the roundup or something. You'll see them use that. I've heard of people using helicopters before, right? You can drive the buffalo, pushing them if you don't have the option to lead them with cubes, okay? Driving them can be more exciting for viewers, but also it's more stress on the animals to potentially be driven. It kind of depends on how they are. It depends on if they're willing, okay? If you're out in the middle of somewhere and there's no pastures and they're not familiar with the area, sometimes the danger with driving them so much is they don't know where you want them to go. At least in a pasture, they remember gates are over here. Oh yeah, they just want us to move, you know, and it can be easier. But if you're in wide open spaces, it takes a lot more people to kind of give a direction to, and they don't necessarily know exactly where you want them to go. So driving can be more stressful, needs more people. It can be done, but not every situation you would want a side-by-side, okay? Not every situation you want a four-wheeler. It's always easier if you can, small herd wise, lead them with cubes. If you've got massive numbers of animals, it's going to be hard to cube them. It's possible to lead them, but driving is the other option, but doesn't always fit the times. So the yearling escape video that we had, that we kind of let them out when we were swapping recently, that's a prime example, okay, of driving, all right? We had to drive them. We let them out, they ran away, and we kind of pushed them. Steve was in his side-by-side, I was walking, and our point at that time was to have them walk. And they walked without cube enticement, and they walked, and we got them right back into the gate, and it wasn't that bad. The point with this is that we have to remember that buffalo, when they have a chance to get out of their normal confined area, they're just gonna run out a gate. They're just gonna run, they're not gonna walk. This morning it was kind of odd that these two just walked, but generally I have never seen a buffalo just walk out their gate like this, no big deal, okay? Especially when there's freedom in between, okay? So buffalo, keep in mind number 3, buffalo always run, and they will continue running until they want to stop or something stops them, all right? it's not unheard of, the stories that people get new buffaloes, they open the gate and let out the trailer and they just, boom, take off. And if they're in a big pen, they just keep running and running and running, and they hit the barbed wire at the end and they blow through that and they just keep running. So, you know, just realize that if they're escaped, you generally would like to try and keep them somewhat calm and controlled, so as you drive them, they're not just blitzing. Number 4, bison are very agile, all right? So back to the whole side-by-sides and everything. If you're just doing a general push, side-by-sides work great. It sucks to have to do it on your own. In that yearling video, we walked them, and as long as they were walking, we could keep up with them, and it was just peaceful and fine. But if they get running, they're going to be way more agile than you. And so you got to kind of think is you don't always necessarily want to be in a side-by-side, okay? Last night was a prime example. We're here in an open space, and number 26 was facing us, and she wanted to go a different direction. On a side-by-side, you can't fine-tune your movements really well to keep up with them wanting to shift. On foot, you can. In a small area like this, it would not have been good for me to be in a side-by-side. It would have overexcited them, and I wouldn't have been able to react and kind of make sure that they stayed where they're supposed to go. So, side-by-side, never would have used it, even if I had it last night in this small, nuanced area. Too many obstacles, too many other things. All right, so let's analyze our situation in a little bit more detail. Last night, we did not use cubes, okay? The reason we didn't use cubes, I know some of you had mentioned, hey, you need a side-by-side, you should cube them, you should whatever, you know, bribe them and stuff. It wouldn't have worked. And this is why I say, we have had buffalo where we have brought out cubes, put them down there, and then opened the gate to the new pasture where there was brand new grass. They ditched the cubes and ran to the grass, okay? Cubes, at least for ours, is not more enticing than fresh grass. Compound that with a problem that we've had of a drought, where they haven't had a lot of fresh grass at all. Those two animals came out and they had loads of fresh grass. Cubes would not have overridden their desire for the fresh grass. Cubes would not have worked. The other reason why we didn't want the cubes was because the main herd, okay? The herd is trained to cubes, and if we had brought out cubes and started dangling around to entice the two that are outside the pen, the rest of the herd would have come up wanting cubes, okay? Well, what's the big deal with that? Well, those two have to go into the same pen that the whole herd is, and if I'm using cubes to get them to that pen and have to go through the gate, I have 30 more animals on the other side wanting to go out the gate to get to the cubes. And it would have caused a bottleneck and would have been more problems. Probably more would have escaped than they would have actually gone in. So that's another reason cubes were not the answer last night. Back to the other point about driving them, we didn't want to use a side-by-side, we didn't want to use a truck because it was going to just overexcite them, and we wanted to and had to keep them calm. If they would have walked the entire time, it would have been simple to get them back to the gate, whether we had a key or not, whatever, but they would have been more like they were this morning, simple to just move, nice, peaceful, and calm. And the last part of what happened a couple nights ago was the fact that this compound, I hate using that term, but all of the buildings are here in the center section, and we have 3 sides fenced in pretty much. This back section behind me is not fenced in, and I didn't want them picking up speed. I didn't want them taking off and running to a different spot, because if they got outside this little compound area, it would have been a lot harder to do it, and we had limited people. We didn't have the ability to drive them with such a small number of people. So anyway, that's the experiences from the last video, right? That's why we did what we did. That's why we didn't use side-by-sides. That's why we didn't use trucks or cubes or other things like this. So I'm telling you this just to make it as a learning experience. Sometimes we just kind of think, oh, this one person, they do it, then that's just must be the answer. And there is no the answer, just like there's no the Ohio State. Come on, you got to give me some comment about that one, right? So anyway, Ohio State fans, feel free to comment. I don't hate you guys, it's not like a personal thing, but just realize that when you're seeing or any of these other guys or even me, it works here, but there are reasons in other situations that maybe it doesn't work somewhere else before we just jump to a conclusion that there is the answer. All right, so we're just gonna leave it there, guys. We appreciate you joining along. Hopefully if you ever have your own buffalo herd and they escape at some point, maybe this will be of use to you. Just remember those 3 things. You can lead them with cubes if they're trained that way with some signal. You can drive them, Make sure you have manpower. It's going to be more exciting. It's going to be more agitated and stressful. More open areas, stuff like that. And they will run. And you've got to be prepared to do that if they do that. So ideally you want to keep them calm. And just remember, certain situations dictate. So we appreciate you joining along. Use those as some tips. If you have your buffalo herd, I'm going to get out of here. I got to get some stuff done. We appreciate it. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time, guys.